bad. Something weird's going on with YouTube today. Seems to be running very slow. The best bit. Yeah, I know the big fight is on. Yeah, I'm gonna get a pizza before the fight. So if you want to donate to the pizza fund, feel free. So I'm getting one today, boy. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I will be getting a pizza. I'll sort that out with my brother later, but it's pretty late, and so yeah, I kind of botched it a bit by starting this late. But I've got a pressure cooker I want to try. I got a new thing added to the soundboard as well. What's up? You're gonna hear that a lot. I got a couple. I don't have that many additions to the soundboard, but the only problem I've got is apparently it echoes when I play it back, so I don't know why it does that. But yeah, it's just not playing these at the right time, to be fair. But yeah, so it won't be the longest stream today. I might stream tomorrow, to be honest, depending on how I'm feeling, because there was a lot I wanted to cover. I haven't got it all here. Most of this is for one video, as always. Let's just have a quick look if anything's going on in the world. The body of a hostage recovered from Gaza. They managed to pull a few bodies out, I think, a few of the hostages out, but they were dead. At the time, I think it was 3. I think this is 4 now that we've heard of. Russia could increase Ukraine attacks, says Zelensky. Yeah, Ukraine's looking pretty grim over there. As you again. The boil notice issue. Alright. Another pro-Palestinian march in London. It's good news. Maybe it's the whole browser that's being slow. March through Gaza, the 76th anniversary of what Palestinians refer to as the Nakba. Let's see. Looks like it went off without a hitch. Why is there a watermelon here? But yeah, don't worry, Akis, I will be watching. Oops, that's League of Legends stuff there. I will be watching that stuff. So there's a lot I wanted to cover, actually, to be fair. I wanted to talk about, like... Well, to be fair, this is not relevant to the Gaza stuff. I think this was an interesting one to cover, because they had Ash back on Politics Live, and it's quite fun.
This line about the coalition of chaos that's beginning to be resurrected from the 2015 election, which seemed to work against Ed Miliband, do you think that will work as an attack line this time?
I don't think it will. I mean, when I saw the Tories going with that line, I really felt like, oh God, my time machine works. It's just taken us back nearly a decade. It shows you how little the Conservative Party has managed to move on and get with the times. In some ways, I feel kind of sorry for Rishi Sunak, because him and Jeremy Hunt aren't really a government at all. They're a crisis management team with a parliamentary wing, and they were sort of brought in to try and clean up the mess caused by Liz Truss. The awful truth is that it's not just Rishi Sunak's fault, and it's not just Liz Truss's fault either. The Conservatives have been on a downward trend in terms of polling since December 2021, so that's under Boris Johnson. And it's since then that you guys have been lurching from crisis...
Since Partygate, really. I think that's what sunk them.
...to crisis, and you haven't had any animating purpose or vision or strategy. And I think that this idea that it could be saved by a different leader, that's for the birds. I think the idea that Suella Braverman is pained by having to go on TV and stick the boot in, also for the birds. I really don't see a way forward for you.
Actually, I agree with the middle bit of what you were just saying there about the fact that that it is about vision, it's about narrative, it's about tying these things through to talk about.
Is there time? Is there time? And is anyone listening?
Look, possibly not, and possibly not. The honest answer to those.
It's a big admittance there, Tory MP, just saying that they haven't got enough time to turn it around. The Aki are back. The Championships beat Carlo Thistle on 5-3 aggregate. The watermelon is used... okay, that makes sense. I had a feeling. That makes sense. It's pretty appropriate now, to be fair. We're going to be discussing some of that stuff on the stream, really. I want to talk about Labour and kind of I want to call it the Gaza problem, but I don't think that was appropriate. Kind of a Labour and the pro-Palestine... I didn't know how to phrase it. I guess if you come up with a title, let me know. But I just want to discuss the situation around Labour losing a lot of pro-Palestine voters and how bad their record was initially, and it's not gotten a ton better, I think. Well, to be fair, going from essentially pro-genocide to where they are now is a big improvement, but that's not the point.
Massive vote. I think it was more than 60,000 for Mr. Yaqub, who was standing on the pro-Palestine, he describes himself, that ticket.
Yeah.
If those sorts of numbers...
I suppose that's a good one, actually, Kevin, yeah.
Voted in your constituency against you, what would that do to your...
Well, I would lose my seat if that was... 69,000, that was across the entire 3 million population, just to be clear.
No, but we're talking about the concentration where you are. You would lose your seat.
It's undoubtedly an issue in my constituency, undoubtedly one.
This is why I think one of the reasons why she resigned over the initial vote over a ceasefire is because she knew it was untenable. She knew it was untenable that if she had abstained or voted against that first SNP ceasefire motion, I think it would have been over for her.
I speak to my constituents about all the time. Did throughout the mayoral race, we didn't have local elections in Birmingham, so I did throughout the mayoral race talk to my constituents about it. It's a massive issue. Let's make no bones about it.
After we saw this massive...
So yeah, it's a big problem, and... So yeah, if we look at the situation here, I think major vote estimate in Birmingham Yardley, this would be her seat. That, it's dicey. It's dicey. But obviously, local elections, or it wasn't local elections, the mayoral races. You don't know how many people are going to turn out, things like that. But that's an L right there. That's an L if it goes if it goes like that. Or be very, very close. That Birmingham mayoral race was very, very close because of Yaqub. What's his full name? Ahmed Yaqub. It was very close, the mayoral race. And this, again, if he takes a seat off her because of this, there is... Remember, people do not like talking about the tabs he has. I told you, stop mentioning the tabs. I told you. It doesn't matter. Look...
Really trying to keep it PG.
But don't mention the tabs, guys. I've warned you guys about this, okay? We don't do that around here. I need to get that one as well. That's another one I need. You don't do them things. I need that one. I need that guy.
I'ma do my stuff.
Exactly, what tabs? That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know what QA is talking about. I've no idea. But when we look at these votes, His company's nicked about 32.7% of the vote share. It's kind of nuts. I'll be real. It's kind of nuts that he's come in there first time round, no major party backing, and boom, he just swooped. Or actually, he would just swoop, take a third of the vote potentially. But again, you don't know. Like, you know, Labour supporters might not have just turned out on the day in that area of Yardley. You know, this is just an estimate. I don't know who it's done by. Data scientist Marwan Data. So we'll have to see. But honestly, this is going to be very nervy for Jess Phillips, and I think a few others as well. There's more I want to discuss, if Twitter will let me. And the Scottish leader made up with the. No, they haven't, as far as I can see. I don't think they have.
Sat across from two very, very intelligent people, and unfortunately,
where are they? Where are the intelligent people?
The way you're talking is treating people like mugs. You can talk about condemnation all you want. You can talk about reminding Israel of their international obligations all you want. But until you're talking about suspending arms sales to Israel, until the Americans are talking about suspending military aid to Israel, all of that finger wagging in the world will not stop Netanyahu from doing what he wants to do, which is launching an absolutely terrible, abhorrent ground assault.
Yes, thank you, Stu, for becoming a Ride and Tier member for 3 months. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that a lot. That's really great for the channel. You can get memberships from a quid. Missed it all so far. Got a phone call. No, you haven't missed too much, to be honest. The preamble. The election could be labelled Labour's missed opportunity in the future. Ooh. I don't know. The thing is, though, that election win's pretty guaranteed, to be honest with you.
On Rafah, the images which are coming out on social media at the moment have
I got it. Sir Keir Starmer, I'll nick it from you, Kieran. Sir Keir Starmer and the human rights issues. What do you think of that? That sounds pretty good, I think.
Months from Rafah of children buried under the rubble, body parts blown to smithereens. This is the result of Israel being emboldened and effectively being given a carte blanche to interpret its, in Emily's words from October 2023, its absolute right to self-defense to mean collective.
Woo! Oh, the quote. Oh, she just quoted her back. That's gnarly, that is. Oh.
Punishing the Gazan people.
Well, Emily?
We've got some stuff on Emily Thornberry coming up in a bit.
Well, I think that 3 days after the first incursions into Israel, when so many people had been killed and there were so many hostages that had been taken, and we were in a live situation.
Well, and there are still hostages.
And we believed, but they were, but it was still, there was still fighting going on the ground in Israel, and there were.
That's why you don't make knee-jerk statements. That's why you don't make knee-jerk statements like that. You know, you call for calm. You don't say you have an absolute right to defend yourself. You call for calm in the situation because you don't know how bad it's going to escalate. You don't say, you have an absolute right to defend yourself, because you don't. Not like that.
As far as I understood, there was going to be an attempt to get the hostages back. At that stage, just cut the lights off and so on was the right thing to do. But as I said,
cut the lights off. What the hell does that mean?
Time, and there has been some selective reporting. It absolutely
selective reporting. I mean, you haven't corrected the record for months. You went out there to bat. We saw the clip.
Is not within international law to cut off supplies to a nation. So
you were asked specifically about food and water,
yes,
not just the lights, and you said Israel has an absolute right to defend itself.
She's trying to downplay what we're saying, talking about lights.
And as I also said, as the guy from the UN had said before, I'm sorry for people who hadn't seen the programme, but for the person who was from the UN who was on Newsnight before me had said, within a short period in a war, you can cut off in order to. So essentially, if they were going to go into Gaza to try and get the hostages back, then in that very short period, then it would be right.
She's spinning it. She was asked, does Israel have the right to cut off food, water, and energy? And she said, Israel has the absolute right to defend itself. Let me see if I can find it. Emily Thornberry. Gaza Newsnight. It's literally the first thing that comes up. Let's have a look.
I mean, I don't.
They've already cut off the food.
I hear what you're saying.
Let's have a listen. Oh.
But I mean, I don't.
Let's have a listen. This is important. This will go in the video.
They've already cut off the food.
I hear what you're saying, but what I'm saying
is that against international law. It's really simple. Sir Keir Starmer doesn't seem to think it is.
What is simple
is that whatever actions are taken by a democracy, it has to be done in accordance with international law. And we have heard tonight from the President of the United States that he has been on the phone to need to act in accordance with international law.
Pause there, if I may. Do you think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international law?
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism.
That's not the question I asked.
It is an answer to the question that you've asked, and I think it's an appropriate one at this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly, she's just gaslighting. I mean, it's absolutely gaslighting. She's gaslighting the people.
To kind of, I mean, and we know that's what Israel has been doing.
And this is what I mean. There's a lot of Labour MPs, a lot of front benchers, a lot of pro-Labour goons who are going to spin this and who have spun this. But that's not going to go. It's not going to go down easy because we got receipts. The internet exists. We can just go. Look how quickly I googled that.
Like I won a championship game.
That's what it feels like. That's how easy it was. Literally, the top search for Emily Thornberry was that. I don't know if it may be something I searched in the past. You guys can check that out. But that's how easy it is to fact check. Easy.
On and off in Gaza anyway. But in this period, that was the thing to do. Not to do it so that you starve people and not to do it so that you cut off their power so that they don't have water. I mean, that's, you do it...
These are not clarifications you had made.
A short period when you're defending yourself because you have an absolute right to defend yourself, and that's the right thing to do. But it always had to be, as we always said, within the confines of international law.
But then when you're asked about have Israel broken international law, you keep saying no. When they were taken to the ICJ by South Africa, you said that's a distraction. So you can keep saying, they've broken. You can make the same argument for Russia. I don't think any court has said that they've broken international law. So Vladimir Putin can run with the same argument you guys are making for Israel. This is how dumb you guys are. This is how stupid these arguments are.
I think that's a bit like saying, I want to burgle this house, but in a lawful way. I think these two things are completely contradictory.
It's you've got my stuff in your house, and I'm going in to get it.
And the last thing that I would say is, I think it is for
She looks very uncomfortable. Emily Thornberry looks very uncomfortable. That's what I'm going to say.
Birds, the idea that you could not see what would be happening.
I mean, I can play the clip again, guys, if you want. But we heard what she said. There was nothing about timescales or about getting the bad guys or anything like that. It was literally, they have the absolute right to defend themselves. And that's the appropriate answer at this time. And she didn't correct the record until much, much more recently. Within the last month or so, because Owen Jones had left the Labour Party and she was asked about it.
Now, what was coming out from Israel in terms of politicians' mouths, the references to Amalek, saying that there are no uninvolved civilians, even in those very, very early days, it was clear that civilians were being considered fair targets. So then when you've got leading politicians saying that the right to self-defence includes cutting off food, includes cutting off water and power, that either means that you were unable to see what millions of other people could see was going to happen, which would make me question the quality of the politicians we have in this country, or...
This is a fatality. This is genuinely... I want to play that Drake clip again. That's how bad this is. Like, this is genuinely stuff where you're just like, God damn. Yeah, I saw what Lammy said, yeah. I can't cover everything, guys. Like, I wish I could. I really wish I could. But damn, this is this is what Thornberry would have been doing.
Start praying, boy.
Honestly, that was brutal. That was so brutal. This is really like just dismantling, not just Thornberry, but I think the main two parties as well. This is one I'll cover separately, actually.
There's an element of being disingenuous, where you didn't think you had the political room to say this at the start, but now you're worried about the images coming out.
Okay, so may I answer that? So I think within the short period...
Look at the hand, look at the pointing, look at the aggression. And I don't want to say that. I don't want to be mean, because sometimes if women be assertive, they do get the tagline of being aggressive and being rude and all that stuff, right? But look at the pointing. Look at the anger.
First few days, when they were trying to get their hostages back, I think there was
They weren't trying to get their hostages back, though. They weren't trying to get them back. They went in there to massacre. We know that for fact. They weren't trying to get people out. Labour and other politicians in Britain and elsewhere give Israel the impression it could do. Yeah, they did, and they still do. With a grown-up, sure the child zip it. Exactly.
One thing, and as things move on, we have been completely clear about what it is that we expect. No,
you didn't. You literally kept tripling down. You didn't. It took Keir Starmer 2 weeks to clarify his statements around cutting off food and water. It took him around, I think it was either a week or 2 weeks. You weren't clear or anything. You got hit with a backlash. Keir Starmer literally went to a mosque and in his tweet said, "We reiterate calls for Hamas to release the hostages." You said that at a mosque in Wales.
Expect there to be a ceasefire. It is not necessary for Israel to continue in this way. Israel had an absolute right to defend itself, but now there needs to be an immediate ceasefire, and we have made that.
When do you draw the line, though? It took a month to get to this conclusion. This is crazy. Thank you, Sock. That will go to the Pizza Fund. If you want to donate to the Pizza Fund, please feel free, because I will be getting a pizza. Shoot, man, need to go quick, otherwise I'll be paying full price.
That clear?
Would you suspend on sales?
I'll answer that question.
Okay. So what I would say is this, is that when we look at some of the images, and I can't sit here in this television studio or in London and decide on a case-by-case basis on what, whether there has been a breach of international law.
You guys literally said this about Russia, though. You said Vladimir Putin had violated international law. Like, you can't say we can't decide international law and then say Vladimir Putin broke international law. It don't make sense.
Or here or there or whatever instances. But as a whole, one begins to really be concerned that there may well be some breaches of international law. And if that is right, then what we need to do, and listen, I've been doing this a long time.
You guys literally called the ICJ case investigation into this a distraction.
I did this when we were arming Saudi Arabia in Yemen. And what you do is you look at what arms are being sold. Are they being used? British arms are being sold. Are they being used in the conflict? And is there?
Nah, I'm not ordering from Domino's, bro. I'm ordering from it's a different chain, but like those brothers are way better.
A breach of international law. Now, we can see what seems to be on the face of it breaches of international law. The question then is, what arms are we selling, and are they being used? And that's quite a difficult and a technical thing that needs to be done. And that's why we want to see the advice,
right,
so that we can see the stages that have been gone through to see.
Do you really still need to see the advice after all the stuff we've just seen? It's difficult, guys. Like to not insult them.
I was really trying to keep it PG.
And I'm really trying to keep it professional, trying to keep it PG here, but this is a shocking display of condescension. This is literally, I'll show you the picture I'm using in the thumbnail. It'd be that one there. This one here. I mean, look at just anger and aggression. Just honestly, just wow. It's not for me, guys, especially after the back of this. Look.
Both of them have agreed that democracies need to act in a...
Is Labour trying to play it too safe? I didn't do a community post, Let me do one. Bear with me, guys. 1 sec. 1 minute. Joe, I will do my best to stream tomorrow. Community post. For stream. On the 19th. What month are we in? May. Alright, cool. I'll do my best to stream tomorrow. QA, just leave your question there and I'll try and answer it. Here we go again.
Accordance with international law.
Pause there, if I may. Do you think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international law?
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism.
That's not the question I asked.
It is an answer to the question that you've asked, and I think it's an appropriate one at this time.
Why won't you answer whether you think it's in line with international law or not?
Because I've tried to answer, and I've tried to say that we've already heard from your previous guest about what might be happening on a day-to-day.
It's just embarrassing, guys. Embarrassing. And this is what they were saying at the time.
This is a really difficult, complex, serious and deeply held issue.
Do you think Israel breached international law by cutting off power and water supplies? Do you think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international...
We'll go into detail about it in a bit.
Law.
Do you think Israel is abiding by international law?
I think that Israel...
I'm going to cut this one because it's not... I don't like the way they've edited it. At the time, Starmer saying more than 1 million Palestinian civilians sheltering in Rafah, an Israeli offensive must not go ahead. There must be an immediate ceasefire. The same brother... Starmer will sack any Labour frontbencher who votes for a Gaza ceasefire. One Labour source told The Telegraph that support for a ceasefire is not compatible with serving on the front bench. 19 shadow ministers have called for a ceasefire so far. This is, at what point did they say this is too much? That's the question. And, we find out at the end of this operation, whatever the casualties, will Hamas have been destroyed? Probably no. Will Israel be any safer? Probably no. Will they have solved their inherent problems? Probably no. Probably no. Which is true. What Labour should have been calling for is an immediate ceasefire, or at least Israel's plans on what they're going to do in terms of what exactly is their strategy. They never did. Yeah, that's what they say. When they don't answer questions, things are complicated. That's what they say. We've got more.
Is it a problem for Keir Starmer that you have a groundswell of worry about what he's saying about Israel, not, in their view, being strident enough in supporting the plight of the Palestinians in Gaza? Is that an electoral problem for Labour, not just in Muslim, but in key student seats as well? Come the general.
We have seen a lot of student protesters as well. We saw it in Cambridge. I think there's some, around the country as well. So, I think that the student vote might be a problem. The only issue is that students or younger people, the under 25s, which I'm sadly no longer a group of, they don't typically vote. That's one of the problems.
General election.
And I don't know which party will energise their vote, apart from maybe the Green Party or the SNP if you're in Scotland, but that's a different thing. Generally, when I talk about stuff like that, if I don't mention Scotland, just assume I'm talking about England.
Yes, quite simply, if you look at Oldham, where pro-Palestinian candidates have picked up a lot of votes, people have shunned Labour.
Please tell me there's no moaning gammons in here. I'm sick to death of them. I can't guarantee you that, but
that is a real cause for concern for the Labour leadership. And, this is something that's been acknowledged by Pat McFadden, who's Labour's national election coordinator. He's also said you can't ascribe too much concern to it, but they are.
For your bus fare to Scotland, once hits the fan, you're more than welcome this side of the border. You can even bring the new cooker. I'll see about that. My brother's got half a share in it, so I'll have to buy him out. Yeah, no, I'll think about it.
Worried about it behind the scenes, and particularly
you guys give me a castle and I'll be there no matter what.
For seats like Wes Streeting, who's the Shadow Health Secretary, there is going to be a Palestinian candidate there who's running on a one mandate, which is we would like to see a ceasefire and we're going to pressure Parliament into backing one as well. In those sort of seats where there is a slim majority, someone like the Shadow Health Secretary could lose their seat at the election.
And this is what I mean, like they've talked about Jess Phillips, who's a senior Labour MP in my opinion, who's been around for a while and is very vocal on issues, whether you like her or not. She is quite, she does get a lot of attention. Sometimes for dumb things she says, but sometimes for really good things she said. The Natalie Elphicke thing, the way she backed Natalie Elphicke was dumb. Someone complained about too many gammons here, but But what's it called? How welcoming Elphicke and making probably the most embarrassing defences for Natalie Elphicke, but then going out in the House of Parliament and talking about some of the victims of MPs that are sitting in the House. It's crazy. Thank God there's skin pink. All right, John.
Is it a problem for Keir?
So we've gone through this one. What Starmer thinks?
It really matters. You won by 1,500 votes. People are talking about in the Birmingham metro area that you might have lost 30,000 votes to the independent candidate.
Don't know why. This feels like a football fan channel. Feels like Arsenal fan TV. Don't know why. Warning Conservative. Yeah, you still got the spanner.
Because people are really upset with Labour and you about your stance on the Israel-Hamas war. How much of a problem is it? You said that you have heard them. What are you going to actually do?
Well, look, I think we won many votes here. It was always going to be tight. You had an incumbent mayor who was distancing himself from the government. And so this was always going to be a tight fight. We've never won this mayoralty before. But look, where we have not been able to persuade people who might otherwise have voted Labour, it is important for me to acknowledge that and to say I've heard, I've listened, and I am determined to meet...
You haven't really listened, have you, Big Ben? Not really. I guess you can argue he has, because the backlash was pretty severe. But they haven't done much to change, I think, where they were. All they're doing is hiding behind the Americans anyways, let's be honest.
The concerns that they have, and to win back their trust and confidence, that is really important, but nothing takes away from the significance of this victory here in the West Midlands on top of all the other gains that we made in this set of local elections, the last local elections, the last stop before that general election.
I'll take this one back.
It's not really answering the question, is it, though? You know, it's just a very generic answer given. Lammy doing the special relationship. Yeah, I mean, just hiding behind him, to be honest. We got this from Peston.
There's be a bit of anxiety tomorrow around...
Do you know what? Yeah, this quote's actually wild. It does show you that the massive amount of entitlement with certain Labour people. Like, this is actually wild.
The West Midlands result, when I was talking to senior Labour figures, they say it was too close to call. Andy Street may therefore, a Tory, again win, partly because of his personal popularity, very little to do with Rishi Sunak's lack of popularity, and partly because, again, Muslim voters may not be turning out for Labour in the way they should.
And that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's been clipped deceptively. Like, this is kind of crazy. Like, Muslim voters haven't turned. Maybe Muslim voters may not be turning out for Labour the way they should. Like, bro, people don't owe you votes. Like, you're not owed a vote. Let's be honest now. You earn votes. You earn votes. You're not entitled to anything. So this quote, I don't know if it's from Peston or if he's quoting someone there, because it's a bit confusing the way he's phrased it. But you know, I'd be ashamed, especially after the flea comments they made as well. It is shocking the way Labour treats their core voters versus the swing voters they're trying to get. It's like the Gordon Ramsay meme of saying, "Are you a stupid sandwich?" And the Gordon Ramsay meme when he talks to kids, where he's like, "Oh, okay, it's okay, don't cry." Just shows how Labour have taken the Muslim vote. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Got more from this from Question Time last week.
You know, I just wanted to address the lady's point about promises, because I think this is incredibly important. I think for all political parties, this is the biggest challenge at the next election. And I'm afraid I won't take any lectures from Grace.
What I'm going to do is I'll move this one out because that one's not super relevant to this video.
And I can tell you... Why did you not speak out against Keir Starmer saying...
Hang on.
When Keir Starmer said Israel has the right to cut off water and power, which is a war crime, why did you not speak out against that, Lisa?
Because he didn't, and you know that
but he did.
And you just
there's evidence
over and over again when he's clarified exactly what he said.
Here we go. So, look... This is the important bit here.
And you just there's evidence over and over again when he's clarified.
He clarified. So we went from he never said that to he clarified it.
Because he did.
Why did he not speak out against that, Lisa?
Because he didn't, and you know that.
But he did.
Took him a week to clarify.
You just there's evidence over and over again when he's clarified exactly.
I think from watching clips of Newsnight, I think Grace Blakely gets gaslit the most. Like Jacob Rees-Mogg tried to gaslight her over concentration camps in the Boer War, and now you got Lisa Nandy trying to gaslight her over this stuff. So yeah, this is pretty bad. And
international law is upheld. Right, and so my question is, do you think Israel has breached international humanitarian law by cutting off water and fuel supplies?
Well, in the last 24 hours, we've seen water, medicine and food enter Gaza. It is in...
So she wouldn't answer the question there either, so... You know, she said she was tough on it, but she wasn't.
Water and power, which is a war crime. Why did you not speak out against that, Lisa?
Because he didn't, and you know that.
But he did.
A siege is appropriate. Cutting off power, cutting off water.
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation.
It's literally what he said, but okay. This stuff is pretty nuts as well. Just some generic stuff. Lammy tells US Republicans he can find common ground with Trump. A Labour spokesman refuses to rule out Farage joining the Labour Party. So here, Tory MP Natalie Elphick. I mean, this is pretty nuts as well, to be honest with you. They will learn to not mess with Grace. Yeah, Grace is a pretty tough customer, to be fair. I'm glad she's back from wherever she went. I think she went on leave for a while to write her book as well. So I'm glad she's come back in the game. Her and Ash are really cool, honestly. She talks about the importance of international law.
Has literally committed grave human rights abuses, and it is found that that country has undermined international law in doing so, it has not abided by international law, then for international law to mean anything, and we use this a lot of the time when we're talking about rogue states and regimes that we have big problems with, rightly, and, you know, cut off arms sales to and sanction, if that discourse, if the liberal rules-based international order means anything, then Israel has to be sanctioned.
Did you make the same argument to those arming?
You do enjoy winding Emma up. Who the hell's Emma? Who's Emma?
Hamas. Who then attacked on the 7th of October.
Of course I would make the same argument about people. I think we should be,
that.
I personally don't think that we should be supplying weapons to rogue regimes anywhere. You know, we have this alliance with, for example, Saudi Arabia, right, which is also a corrupt regime, and we end up recycling oil sales for weapons through that. I think that is also wrong. You know, I think we...
yeah, exactly. We're not arming Hamas. We're arming despotic regimes. Okay, we mentioned that. This is the Emily Thornberry stuff I was going to come back to. Who would like some context behind Emily Thornberry's decision to defend Keir Starmer? And I actually remembered the article he's talking about because I covered it, I think, at the time. So remember that briefing about Starmer being boring. Emily Thornberry was allegedly behind that, according to Owen Jones, as Starmer's team knows. She went around briefing with that it wasn't clear that Starmer was going to be Prime Minister. She thought it might come crashing down for Starmer, and that he might... and then the crown might fall to her instead. She resented the fact that Starmer had pushed out of the leadership race in 2020, given she came from a similar place politically but had more charisma. She could quite understandably conclude this had to do with sexism, but then again, it's a bit weird because you had Rebecca Long-Bailey, who did quite well in that leadership contest, I think, as well. In any case, the Tories imploded, and so Starmer became a dead cert. Thornberry had gone around briefing against him, thinking it would all fall apart. That meant a vengeful Starmer could end up sidelining her one last chance at frontline politics. So instead, Thornberry had to prove herself to Starmer's team to save her political aspirations. How did she do it? By refusing to condemn cutting off the essentials of life to civilians, a grave war crime, and even defending it under Israel's absolute right to defend itself. Grubby stuff, right? And that's true. You know, if what Jones is saying is true, it goes to show you that, you know, it's a bit of mob mentality here. You know, prove yourself to the party, I guess. And it sounds believable that it was her, because someone did brief. Labour leaders urged colleagues to focus on returning government after a string of negative stories. It does sound like it could be her, given that she was, I think, mad that she wasn't made leader. I've followed UK politics for a while. I thought Starmer was doing okay, but lately I can't make any sense out of... I mean, the thing is, right, Conservatives like this, right? It's like you're a Formula 1 guy, so imagine the other team, right? It's a 1v1. The other driver goes into the pit stop, and instead of them fixing up his car, they end up breaking his car and they start fighting the driver. And so the other team don't really know what's going on, and they're just out here fumbling around. But the win is so guaranteed. This is a really poor analogy. The win is so guaranteed, it doesn't matter what they do. I mean, Labour, you know, abstaining on the water vote, which I'll probably talk about. I'll talk about this tomorrow, actually. I'll get this stuff cleared up in the morning, because there's not a ton of videos here. Hundreds of migrants have moved out the Bibley barge and the RAF base. What was 1.6 billion for Bibley? Remember, it was... Yes, I remember that. Is because Labour have the lead so well because of the fact the Tories have fumbled. Like playing against a football team that just scores own goals. Like Labour, like they abstained over the water bill. Starmer's like 6 new pledges or whatever they're called are just really bad, really bad. Like as in bland, like real bland, like the chili I just made that I need to add some seasoning to. Awful. Smashing the gangs instead of opening safe and legal routes is a political choice. Yes, true. They could do both though. They could do both. But yeah, this is what I mean. Like you get people who gaslight and will try and con you into believing what Labour are doing is the smart thing when it's simply not the case. It's simply not the case. You know, the US says Israel's arms most likely violated international law. So, you know, the US are potentially to the left, I guess, of Starmer on this issue. But what the US will do about it, I don't know. There's more, you know, I don't think Netanyahu has a strategy for winning this war, if this war is at all winnable. You know, in a situation where it just doesn't look like... Because Israel have botched this so badly, they have no idea what they're doing. Biden looks dreadful there. Yeah, I think it's an unfortunate picture, to be honest. He looks very awake, though. He doesn't look very sleepy. Let's see.
And actually, what that did to many working people across this country was rob them of any hope. You know, I just wanted to address the lady's point about promises, because I think this is incredibly important. I think for all political parties, this is the biggest challenge at the next election. And I'm afraid I won't take any lectures from Grace, who was a champion for a manifesto that was fundamentally dishonest.
This way you get a real feel for Nandy.
At the last election, we had one party going into it saying we can do everything. We can spend all the money in the world and we can deliver absolutely everything, knowing full well that they couldn't. And we had another political party.
Lisa?
Sorry, Grace, you had a long say. And actually, what that did to many working people across this country was rob them of any hope that things could possibly get better. Because against that, you had Boris Johnson and these big promises of levelling up that have come to absolutely nothing. So when we say we are going to implement the New Deal for working people, when we say we are going to get Britain building, you can absolutely rest assured that we mean it and that we're going to deliver it.
But Lisa, your kind of visceral hatred of everything that happened during the Corbyn era, and I think this is true of lots of people in the Labour leadership, means that you've looked at that manifesto, seen there was a lot in it, that is true, and just said anything that Corbynism has touched, we can't go near.
This is also a Labour MP who had to run on that manifesto. If she wasn't happy about it, she could have left the party. She could have left. If she's claiming that the party was so dishonest and so problematic, she could have left. She chose not to, though. I wonder why. So, you know, this argument she's making is just pathetic, to be honest with you. There's no principles in here, I'll be honest. So it's just, it don't sit right with me, honestly. Just stuck looking at Beyblades again. The pier in Gaza is operational. Yeah, you talk about the and the Americans only had to do that because Israel won't allow aid in via the land borders. Labour needs to give me hope, but it's not right now. I mean, it's not giving anyone hope, to be honest. They're pretty hopeless, I'd say.
Which means that you have a manifesto that's basically empty.
Yeah, you know, like it just don't make sense. You know, Labour lost 33%, so let's move this across. Where would we put this? Yeah, I'll put this here. Labour lost 33 percentage points of vote share in areas that are majority Muslim in recent Labour elections. It's not just about Muslim voters, pro-Palestinian voters. It goes much broader than that as well. So that's one of the other problems Labour will run into, because they won't be sure of why people are voting against them. But again, I don't think they'll care. But excuse me, this time around, right, Labour will win, but they're going to lose core voters. And the thing is, when you lose those core voters, when they then become swing voters, it kind of puts you in a situation where you're going to be worried that the next election are these new swing voters that swung your way, are they going to stay there? Probably not. And you've lost your old core voters. So what are you going to do in that situation? I'm just hoping the Fury fight starts at some point soon. 10% of the popular vote, it's all about swing states, so population doesn't have too much. It's better than being... Yeah, the US system is nuts. What's worse, the absolute car crash episode in Aberdeen on Thursday, more plants than Dobby's Garden Centre. I didn't watch it, I'll be honest. Lisa and Andy smoked more than anyone that night, saying Grace had a long say. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't think anyone really likes Lisa and Andy that much. I think she's a bit stupid, to be honest with you. Zara Sultana.
Zara, what do you think of the UK's approach? I mean, you've been very outspoken on this issue.
I think it has been truly tragic. Over 35,000 people have died, 70% women and children. Gaza's healthcare system completely dismantled, every single university destroyed, as well as schools. And we see attacks on journalists, health workers, and... Yeah,
we've seen multiple journalists killed. There was a big high-profile story a couple of years ago of Israel killing I think she was a Palestinian-American journalist, and no one cared. No one cared. And so they go around killing more journalists. What manifesto? Democracy parties are supposed to be present their policies to the public. Yeah, we're still waiting for that. Horrible fry voice, what?
The government has done very little. In fact, when we look at the role that we're playing, we are aiding and abetting what are war crimes that are happening on a daily basis. Our arms licensing system, which we're constantly told is robust, it's so stringent, that's an absolute lie. We have a precautionary principle, well, we're meant to anyway, which hasn't been upheld. Now, David Cameron, as Prime Minister in 2014, under a coalition government, reviewed arms sales to Israel during its conflict in Gaza and said that if that had continued, arms sales would be suspended. Now we have a higher death toll. We've got a potential assault into Rafah where 1.5
and the Rafah assault is happening.
Million people who are already displaced have nowhere left to go, and we are not suspending arms. It is unacceptable.
I agree that, we have to, call for a ceasefire, yeah, but we have to look at the steps we can take to help, and We haven't done that. We really haven't done that. It's so refreshing to have someone go on TV and say they're lying. Yeah, 100%. That's what you got to do, though. I want to talk about Nadim Zahawi's tax situation as well, because I found that pretty interesting. And then I'm going to do a separate video on the Labour Glazers, but I need to sort the tabs out.
I should have probably been more explicit in the details in the ministerial declaration as to...
This is also a guy who became Chancellor, in my opinion, by the looks of things, to bully HMRC. You know, he got found out by a tax expert, Dan Needle, and then tried to silence him via slap lawsuits, to the point where his own lawyer got slapped. Nadim Zahawi's lawyer at risk of sanctions over alleged use of slap. Case marks first referral of such allegations to the Solicitors Disciplinary Tribunal. So essentially, his solicitors slap allegations. So what you do as a slap suit is, in order to silence someone, it's like a cease and desist in America. They sent Dan Needle's company, or Dan Needle, as cease and desist, basically. And the lawyer that sent that seems to have been disciplined over it, based on reports in the FT.
How the settlement was arrived at, and that's my own mistake.
And are you ready to say now why you paid a penalty to the taxman as a result of the investigation? How much you paid?
Of course.
So what happened?
So and I deal with this in my memoirs, which are coming out in August.
You can deal with it now.
Absolutely, and the HMRC found that it was non-deliberate. There was a careless mistake. They also accepted that I was not the beneficiary of an offshore structure or an offshore trust. But they thought the apportionment...
If you had any air left in your vocal cords at the end of a sentence, it lowers your voice. Liz Truss is a prime example. It's a group thing for mostly certain... Okay. Alan Duncan and Alicia Kearns have shown... Yeah, they have done. Yeah. Should have been more explicit in my declaration. I should have told the truth. Yeah, pretty much.
...of shares in YouGov when it was first launched should have had more of the shares... in my name, and as it's been reported, the total...
No, I wouldn't, to be fair. I would not buy a used car of this person.
Just shy of £5 million.
So that is what you paid, nearly £5 million. And why did they get you to pay a penalty if it was just a mistake, as you say?
As I said, although it was found to be non-deliberate...
He is trying to plug his memoirs because he's not running again.
There's still a penalty attached. To that, which I accepted fully, and I accepted it, by the way, because I was Chancellor of the Exchequer, and even if I wanted to push back on this, I think it would have been a total abuse of power if I had done.
Do you regret saying?
Wow, now he's concerned about ethics. He put himself as Chancellor of the Exchequer. He forced his way in. He told Boris Johnson, "Look, make me Chancellor, or I'm going to resign." He got made Chancellor. I think it was under Boris Johnson or Liz Truss. I can't remember which one it was. And then he. This argument of, it had been a conflict of interest. You put yourself in that situation. Now, this tax situation was gone on months beforehand. This is complete garbage, what he's saying here.
The journalists were smearing you when reporting first emerged that the taxman was looking at your affairs.
No, because the smears were so wide. Things like the National Crime Agency, which I've never, ever had any... dealings with ever or any investigations from.
But you are being investigated by the HMRC, and that was reported, and then you said it was a smear.
No, I said because it was linked to National Crime Agency and the SFO, which I've never had an investigation from. And when you were being attacked in that way, upon reflection, again, I deal with this in my memoirs, maybe I should...
Yeah, I want to nix this one. I think it's kind of dead, but point being is he got fined pretty bad. And Zahawi conversely paid nearly £5 million as a penalty to the taxman. Says he now regrets how he handled this mess. I mean, it's pretty bad, to be honest with you. I'm going to end with probably the funniest video I'm going to watch, because this is embarrassing. Like, if I was this guy, if I was this guy's parents, if I was this guy's family member, I would have called him and said, "Bro, you pissed your pants on live TV."
Question I ask, because I know it might sound flippant or trivial, but you've chosen to appear today as you have, without the jacket, without the tie, with the sleeves rolled up. What's that about?
That is about leading from the front. Now, I worked in a public sector.
Okay, this is not the clip I was thinking of, but it's like, oh, why, where's your shirt? Where's your jacket? Where's your tie? Oh, I rolled up my sleeves. I'm showing I'm about business. Don't make sense. Honestly, it's just wanting to imitate Obama. Apparently Cameron did it first in 2010. But anyways, guys, I've got to go. I'll catch you guys tomorrow, hopefully. in another stream that I will try and do. No doubt, I'll do my best. I'ma do my stuff. But yeah, I'll catch you guys.